much, Romana. Very good morning, and it's really wonderful to be here. For the next few minutes, I'd like you all to reimagine what content could mean as virtual, augmented, and mixed realities are finally becoming a reality in the form of Metaverse. The advent of these digital realities is a great opportunity for us to rethink how we can look at information. What is being predicted is that we are slowly going to leave the glowing rectangular screens that you're looking at currently, and we're going to step into a computational space where the world is going to be your desktop. I have a confession to make. I've depended a lot on ChatGPT and DALL-E for my images. So this is actually a three-dimensional image. And if you can't see the 3D, there is a 3D glass underneath your seat. You can take it. Just kidding. So why did I name it as Techno-Hallucinations, right? I keep writing a lot on Metaverse. I keep writing a lot in LinkedIn, basically. So I wrote a paper called Unbearable Lightness of Metaverse. The reason why I titled it based on Milan Kundera's work, Unbearable Lightness of Being, is because we are in that state of hallucination, right? There's so much going on in the metaverse space. We can't really, fathom the depth of it. So I thought hallucination is a better term because this is one of the first talks I've given in real life, because most of my talk have always been in the metaverse. So what I'm going to do now is, pivot this image by Rafik Anadol, who's an artist. Great that Pratik and Anand mentioned about the merging of the science and the art. So this was sold as an NFT for $8 million. So why do I have this slide as the starting point? Is reinforce the argument that content creation is going to become the mainstay in the metaverse. Currently, DALL-E and Midjourney and a few others, Stable Diffusion, can generate images using just text. Now we are entering into a world where I can speak and I can create 3D worlds. It's not there yet. Only 360 images are out there. But soon, when I'm wearing my Oculus device or my HTC Vive or HoloLens, I will be able to create these virtual worlds which Anand spoke about. Right? I'm going to kind of keep repeating that argument about how art is kind of the sinews of this whole metaverse. So without much ado, immersive media technology is the future of computation itself. And why this whole metaverse is so new, right? As Homo sapiens, we've always been a three-dimensional being, right? I don't know why we kind of married to a two-dimensional device, X and the Y. When you offer the Z dimension, so many possibilities opens up. So if you look at the trajectory of technology, you have the PC, the internet, and the mobile, and now the spatial offers us far more entrenched ways of how different technologies can commingle. So I'm going to share 3 discourses, and these discourses should form the background of how we are going to look at the metaverse. First of all, the technology that we are currently dealing with is very visible. Okay, it's not like the invisibility of your GPS on your mobile phones. I remember back at Georgia Tech when I was doing my MS and PhD, I used to have my GPS antenna on top of my car. So it was a visible entity. Right now, you don't even notice that you have the GPS on your phones. So the argument here is the technology is very, clumsy, clunky, but it's a great opportunity for us to really look at it, very epistemologically. The second discourse is the medium is the message. I sit in a horizontal where I'm kind of working with different verticals like CPG, retail, banking, healthcare, and on. And most of the customers are coming to me and asking, can I do some POC in the metaverse? So for everyone, this whole metaverse is kind of knocking their doors, and most of them are coming to us from a point of FOMO, fear of missing out. And the third is a very interesting one. Back at Georgia Tech, we had the privilege of, reading some of the work by Michel Foucault. Foucault theorized about this panopticon, right? If you look, I'm sure most of you would have seen this movie Truman. At any given point, there were 20 cameras watching Truman. And the baseline for that is this whole panopticon where the jailer will be able to see each and every prisoner on the cell, but the prisoner will not be able to notice who is looking at them. Right? In a digital panopticon, we are going to see far, far more cameras watching us. Right now, your cell phone, kind of unlocks based on their faces, right? And more, what we are going to see is your entire spaces are going to be visible for surveillance. So there's nothing new in Metaverse. Once when Mark Zuckerberg kind of announced the Metaverse, we went and really did some research to see, when did the first phrase actually emerge. It starts with snow crash, but there are vestiges of Metaverse going back to 1958 when the Minority Report was published. It was by Philip Dick. It's a phenomenal book, and it was made into a movie. So the definition of the Metaverse comes from Neil Stephenson, and his world is more of a 3D virtual world. He doesn't really, conceptualize the Web3 framework or the blockchain and others. But there are multiple definitions now coming into the market. I kind of stick with Tony Parisi's one. Tony Parisi was with the Unity Technologies. And this is the definition which I kind of buy into. And as you can see, all of these stalwarts are really struggling to really come to a consensus on what this metaverse is. So I kind of lean towards this whole logic of it's always real time, mostly 3D, mostly social, mostly interactive, and mostly persistent. And these are the 7 rules of metaverse as coined by Tony Parisi. There is only one metaverse. We might have multiple virtual worlds, but in the end, all of these virtual worlds will kind of coalesce to form one metaverse. The metaverse is for everyone. Nobody controls the metaverse. Metaverse is open. The metaverse is hardware dependent. The metaverse is a network. And finally, metaverse is the internet. I usually give my talk on a cell phone because I recently got converted. Because usually when I push this whole metaverse boundary, I always thought that you need a headset. You need an Oculus or a HTC Vive or a HoloLens. And at the Mobile World Congress, a Korean walked up and said, mobile is the metaverse and metaverse is the mobile. So I really wanted to do this presentation using my mobile phone, but the tech didn't allow me. So I spoke about Unity. Some of you here who are building games, Unity is the go-to platform for building the game. The next one is the Unreal. So this is from Tim Sweeney. So Tim Sweeney makes this comment: the metaverse is going to be far more pervasive and powerful than anything else. If one central company gains control of this, they will become more powerful than any government and be a god on earth. So there is this constant push that is coming from different quarters that we need to democratize this metaverse. No one single company should lay hold on this entire technological front. So briefly, what do you do in the lab? The lab is kind of dispersed across the globe now. So we work everything from augmented to holograms and everything in between. Apart from that, we also are investing a lot in 3D LED walls, because I strongly believe that the physical and the digital should kind of coexist using these technologies. Also spend a lot of time on building avatars. I have an avatar team in my organization. So we are constantly customizing different avatars for different set of use cases. So Pratik and Anand talked a lot about ChatGPT. I just did this with the, I just asked ChatGPT, can you give me a metaverse strategy for Tata Click? And this is what it had to give me. So additionally, so if you read through this, it's very clear, right? Whatever we have been thinking about what it can do for retail and for CPG and for luxury, it kind of nailed it, beautifully. So it kind of goes on and on. There were some 8 or 10 points. I will share it after this talk. But you know where we are going with that, right? So we do have an in-house platform called as the Ava Presence. It's a portmanteau of 2 names, Avatar and Presence. And the first concentric circle is more of the tech sinews that is running any metaverse platform. So instead of Ava Presence, you can put any of the metaverse platforms out there. And these are some of the tech elements that supports this whole platform. And as I mentioned, we are paying a lot of attention to security, privacy, ownership, and so on. So that's why, we have been contacted by different customers because we are paying a lot of attention to the privacy aspects of the metaverse. And also the human interface of how you can interpret the metaverse need not be just the devices alone, like the headsets. It can also be using your mobile phone and others. So that QR code should lead you to a thought piece that we published recently at tata.com. As I mentioned earlier, it's called as the unbearable lightness of the metaverse, where we really are addressing some of the core concerns of how we can leverage the metaverse for retail and for others. So coming now, there are 3 types of metaverses that you're seeing out there. So I created my avatar in 2017. I stood in a rig in Utrecht, near Amsterdam, and it had 150 cameras. And I, kind of created my own 3D model, and I rigged these models so that I can be present in any conference or any virtual medium. Similarly, I created one for Jay Maloney. He's one of the CTOs of the Royal Dutch Airline. So this is the one version of the metaverse that you're often seeing, right? If you're using our Oculus Quest 2 workrooms or venues, this is the world that you're seeing. And it's often conflated as the metaverse. The second type is this. It's more of a spatial web. This one we created for Thomson Reuters. There is a sound in this. Yeah. So in this case, you can actually navigate all of these spaces using your desktop or your laptop. So this spatial web is very well known to our kids. They are on Fortnite or Roblox or Minecraft and others. So they are the ones who have been pushing the boundaries of what metaverse can do and cannot do in some sense. The third type of metaverse that we are seeing is creating a digital twin of cities or real people, and then enabling your mobile phones or your headsets to interpret what it's looking at, right? So for that, we use satellite images and ground-based LiDAR scans. For example, I can map the entire Mumbai, and I can use that as a 3D model, and I can superimpose digital content. So when I'm taking my phone and looking at the gateway, it kind of tells me exactly what I'm looking at. So this is something that we have done for the New York Marathon. We just mapped the course alone, and we created a digital twin of that. So what follows now is my point of view. I huddled with my team, and we came up with 7 points, okay? And these are very original, though the images are taken from Mid-Journey. So future is phygital, okay? Few months back, I wrote on LinkedIn about, for every product that you're going to buy, be it a consumer good or dress, they're going to offer you a 3D model. Why what will you do with the 3D model is you can kind of take it into a virtual world. So this is happening now. Just a week back, Ready Player Me, which makes the human avatars, they started selling clothing. Once when you have this physical object, you can also use your QR code to convert that, whatever you bought, into a digital, clothing, and you can actually clothe your avatar and walk into any of the virtual worlds. So phygital is the future. The second point is avatars or your digital alter egos. So there are a lot of studies now coming of how these digital avatars are going to reshape the way we are looking at fashion. So virtual dressing rooms, for example, alter ego avatars can be used to create virtual dressing rooms where customers can try on clothing, accessories using their avatar. This can also help customers to get a better sense of how a product will look on them before they make a purchase. And this can actually increase the likelihood of making that purchase. Similarly, virtual personal stylists, right? So on and so forth. So the whole field of avatar studies is just emerging, and we are seeing more and more people adopting this, not only in the case of fashion, but also in healthcare and other domains. The third point is this, reactive reality. At MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, there is a department called as affective computing. And what Metaverse offers you is, it's not just the visual alone, right? I'll be talking a little bit on the sonic branding also. So affective computing is all about how you can have different sensory perceptions surrounding the Metaverse, right? For example, you can have, little dynamic experiences of having, your haptics. If you want to touch a product, how it feels like. All of that is possible in this new domain. I don't know whether Tata Click has sonic branding. We did some projects with MasterCard and a few others where we really dwelt on, can we create an iconic sound for MasterCard, right? And I don't know whether Tata Click has a sonic branding, but increasingly what we are sensing is that as we enter 2023, brands are using sound to create recognition or even to convey a complete transaction like Google Pay or Zomato and others. And my fifth point, I think, is consumers becoming the prosumer. So in this case, what you're seeing is, the technology is getting shaped by how people are using it. So we call that in a sociological sense, like the social shaping of technology. So increasingly, we are seeing more and more artists entering this domain of the metaverse, and they are also pushing the boundaries of what this whole tech sinews will create. And lastly, I think this is the digital humans, social influencers. Digital humans can be used to create virtual try-ons for customers, where customers can see how a product will look on them before making a purchase. So it's not only this, but also as brand ambassadors, right? And in our lab, we do have a digital human. We are yet to name it, and you can constantly keep them in different domains, and then introduce the chat GPT to it, and then you can go and have a virtual conversation with the 3D avatar or with the 3D digital human. And this is my last point, I think. It's the interoperability for seamless commerce. Interoperability doesn't actually exist as of now. I cannot take my avatar from Fortnite and walk into Minecraft or into other spatial webs. But we are kind of getting there in terms of how different bodies are trying to bring that interoperability. If you're using the tool called NVIDIA Omniverse, they're following the format called as the universal scene description. I know it can get a little tricky, but where we are going with the thought process is, when JPEG became JPEG, it was fraught with confrontations, right? There were multiple file extensions for 2D image. Right now, for a 3D image, there are multiple confrontations, right? So USDCs will become the norm. So that's where the interoperability comes in. So can I take my avatar from Tata Click and walk into Tata New, right? So that's where I think, we can have this whole notion of the seamless commerce. And this is my penultimate slide. I'm a great fan of Audrey Tang, and I think this is very relevant for our metaverse too. When we see Internet of Things, let's make it an Internet of Beings. When we see virtual reality, let's make it a shared reality. When we see machine learning, let's make it collaborative learning. When we see user experience, let's make it about human experience. When we hear the singularity is near, let us remember the plurality is here. Thank you very much.